Lena. We've got Vernon and Dan here, and this week we've also got a very special guest. Jane, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Very, very special guest makes it sound like an after-school special, like when they bring like Scruff the Gruff, like the crime dog on or something. Where it's like, kids, we're gonna learn about adventures and not doing drugs.
I will definitely some moral lessons today.
Absolutely. Perfect. I think commenters would regularly say we need moral lessons.
This is the ARLnow. This is the ARLnow after school special. You know, it's for you to get your extra education on what's going on in Arlington, right?
Yeah, this week on a very special episode of ARLnow.
All right. Well, should we go ahead and get into it?
Yeah.
All right. Our first article of the day is the Arlington Fair begins and workers share hints and tales of past years.
I was so excited about this. I love the Arlington County Fair. Actually, I was a little bitter at first because I only found out I was covering it last minute, so I had to scramble, which led to me going to the county fair before it actually opened. But that actually worked out because it was great to get a chance to talk to people working there without like kind of oppressive crowds around there. It was great. I love talking to those guys. They travel around the country. Like, that's one of those things where carnivals and fair workers and stuff like that are one of those jobs that I don't think you think about them a lot. Like, you know, but these are people who see a lot of fascinating stuff as they travel around. And it was really cool hearing some of their stories and stuff.
I'd be curious what they think of Arlington compared to some other jurisdictions.
Yeah, I asked a couple people about that. One of the guys there was from Arlington. He was like, every year it's really cool to get back here as it's like a homecoming for him. It's the guy that runs the Mechanical Bull. If you ever get a chance to go over and see that, say hi to him. But for others, yeah, they were like, most of them said it was really nice, that the Arlington people are very nice. Not as fun and wild as Mississippi is what I heard from other ones. So, yeah, I think we're right in the middle of the country on that.
I'm shocked. Arlington isn't as fun and wild as Mississippi.
I don't know if you want to be as wild as Mississippi, to be honest.
There is no offense to our Mississippi listeners who are for some reason listening to the Arlington podcast, but there are very few things where I'm like, you know what, we should be more like Mississippi. Every week we make a habit of offending at least one group of people. So Mississippi is it today, I guess.
Did you go on any rides, Vernon?
It hadn't opened yet. Like the workers were all like sitting around on the rides, like just chilling before it started. Some of us were like smoking on the rides, and we're like, this is very fun. This is an iconic shot. Although with all the stuff that's been going on with like ice raids and stuff in the region, I've been trying not to like get pictures of people when I go to like restaurants or when I go to places like that. So like anybody working at places, you don't want to do anything that could get anybody like in trouble. So
that's a good call. Yeah.
No.
I think it's really cool that a place as urban as Arlington has a fair. Has a fair. I think, you know, my first few years here, I just didn't even acknowledge that there's a fair. I think of fairs as more of a rural thing. Minnesota, it has a really big fair, which is in the city, but you know, I don't know. I just think of it as, you know, a county fair in an urban county seems a little incongruous, but I think you know the county fair brings a lot of stuff together.
You're totally
I was surprised when I went there for the first time last year, and like just how many people show up for that fair.
Yeah,
it's hugely popular.
Also, Jane, to your point, that I like, it keeps it a lot of the that kind of rural county fair feel to it, where you have things like the biggest tomato grown in like the area, and like the stuff like that. I think really keeps it grounded as a county fair and not like a city thing. Also, don't drive there. That was the thing that they repeatedly yelled at me when we were like putting it together. They were like, "Please take the shuttle. Do not drive there." I drove there and wound up parking like a mile away. So don't.
Oh my gosh.
So don't do what I did.
The shuttle is great. The last time I was there, I have two kids, and I was with one kid, and my husband, unbeknownst to me, left with the other kid and like took the shuttle home. And so I was stuck at the fair expecting him to like come back and meet me home. And I didn't have my phone, and I was trying to, of course I tried to get we all ended up fine. Everything was fine. But it was a little fun experience navigating our modern life without phone.
I've got my first kid coming in January, and I was just walking around thinking I was like very excited because I was like, oh, this is like, this next year I'll get to have a kid and take him around here. So
That's awesome.
it's very cool.
Don't miss out on the foam party. That is
Oh,
the
yeah?
absolute best thing. It's free.
What's the foam party?
They bring a machine that just fills a area. It's an open area with foam, like water foam.
That's awesome.
And the kids get soaked with foam, and they've got like foam things they can sort of hit each other with, but nicely. It's great free. It's a great free event or a free aspect of the fair.
I love that.
Yeah, when I went last year, I was surprised by like how many teenagers were over there.
Yeah.
It really gave me like a similar vibe to like football games back when I was in high school. Like
nice.
Bunch of people just like hanging out. I was like, wow, this is like the place to be if you're around here. Like in high school, I just remember the bus packed with like high schoolers riding back from it. Well, there was a little scuffle with high schoolers there too, but such is the experience.
Right.
It's all part of it. It just adds to the ambiance. All right. Well, our next article for the day is record demand for food and shaky economy leave $891,000 budget gap at the Arlington Food Assistance Center. This one was one of your articles, Dan.
Yeah, on a much more serious note, this has been an ongoing issue for AFAC, really over the past several years, just increasing demand, and I mean, really no sustainable plan at this point for how to fill it. They received a bit of one-time funding from the county last year to help fill up some of their gaps. This year they're looking at demand continuing to increase, and really just the projection that they have with the 891K gap, that's actually even with them meeting some pretty ambitious, assuming that they meet some pretty ambitious goals in terms of fundraising, in terms of volunteering, in terms of all these other things that come together to keep the county's largest food bank running. This is really quite an operation. They've been doing it for decades. They certainly know what they're doing. But just these days, the demand for this kind of service is just too much for them to handle given their current infrastructure. It's really a pretty serious problem over there.
Yeah. AFAC is a fantastic organization. I'm a monthly donor. We should put a link in whatever show notes we have.
Yeah, true.
You should give to AFAC. It is a fabulous organization. If you have time, I recommend volunteering. I've done it a couple of times a long time ago when I first moved here. It's a really great experience. They're a wonderful organization. If you're listening to this and you can spare $25, like send them $25. You can do it once a month, even better. I think, we should really all rally together and support our neighbors who are already facing high costs of housing, high costs of food from inflation, our, predatory federal government. All of these things are impacting our most vulnerable neighbors. And we should really recognize the valuable work that AFAC is doing and help them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, these, it is a food bank. And, it wasn't, maybe this is just me, but it really wasn't until I was in college and starting to learn more about how the world works that I actually learned what food banks do and how they operate, and the fact that truly you just have volunteers who are there with this huge stockpile of free food that they're just giving away to the people who need it most. It's a beautiful thing, and I think it's a side of our society that I think many of us are fortunate enough to not have to see on a daily basis. But this one thing that really surprised me in reporting on this story is the fact that actually almost 1 out of every 10 people in Arlington has a referral to AFAC. So this is this isn't just something for a small handful of people who are in need. This is for think about a crowd. You're sitting on the metro, and there's 10 people on the metro with you. One out of y'all it has a referral to AFAC. So it's just a huge part of how this county operates.
Yeah.
And it shows how many people it helps too. And less funding means less people that they can help.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting. They said it sounds like what they really, really want is like staff and money, because they were like, food helps, but what really helps is volunteers and money, because they said they get food at cost too. So they can, make $5 go further than like I could.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. They can buy in bulk. Their dollars can definitely go a lot further than a typical person shopping at Sam's Club or what have you. But the other aspect of this is really just the demand really continues to go up, and it's been going up for years, and that's before everything goes right now.
Well, yeah, that double whammy too of not only the demand going up, but also people not being able to donate as much, like with the stuff that's been going on at the federal level. That's been, hitting them on both sides. So that's rough.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we move on to our third article for the day?
Yeah, guess who gets all the fun stories this week? All right.
Vernon, this one's another one of yours.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
For the readers, or for the listeners, I guess. This one's about the e-bike vouchers.
Yeah, so Arlington has a new program that will give out vouchers for people to get e-bikes in Arlington. These go from anywhere between $600 to $1,650 towards an e-bike. So if you're looking to ditch your car, the focus of this is on people who are using e-bikes as a substitute for their cars. They're trying to encourage people not to be driving as much, to find alternative ways to get to and from work and stuff like that. And so, yeah, you can sign up. There's randomly selecting the people that sign up, and they'll get a chance to go to one of the local bike stores, which is another part of this that I like, that these were local bike shops that they listed here. You can go there, and at point of sale, you can get the voucher. It's not something where you buy it and then you have to go back in and get it like in the mail as a refund or something. This is at the point of sale. So yeah, this seems really cool. Part of this was, I believe it's $600 for just any Arlington resident who's over 18 and has a valid ID. But for people who are in, I believe, like affordable housing programs or are involved with the Department of Human Services programs, you can get that up to $1,650. I saw one of the parts of the FAQ, or maybe it was like a public comment thing that they had, was asking, okay, well, if the bike costs less than that amount, how much, which is very rare, by the way, these are expensive bikes, but they're like, if the bike costs less than that, what do you do with the rest of the money? And they say that goes back into the program to try to get more people e-bikes. So yeah, it's 250 vouchers right now, and again, those will be randomly kind of given out, but it's the first year of this. From what I've seen, it sounds like a fascinating program.
I like that they are offering it to residents of affordable housing, because I feel like that's great. Because, I mean, one, cars are expensive. Two, it's so expensive to park cars, too, in a lot of areas. So this could really help out someone that needs some reliable transportation.
Yeah. Oh, the fire department friends of mine would be angry if I didn't use this opportunity to say this as well. But if you get an e-bike, please charge the battery like separately and check it regularly. Usually try not to leave it on like overnight and stuff like that, because I'm on the local emergency planning commission over in Alexandria, and all the time the firefighters there are like, most of the fires we're coming across now are from lithium-ion batteries that just like explode in people's houses. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's happening a lot. And for people that like store their e-bikes and stuff in their homes and are like charging stuff, that's a big problem. Also, because those fires are very difficult to put out. So
yeah, you can't take a bucket of water on
an
electrical fire. Don't do that.
Yeah, so they're like, so if you're getting one of these, remember, charge it safely. Keep an eye on it.
And make sure that you've got a fire extinguisher somewhere in your house.
Yeah, all good to know. Have a fire extinguisher anyway, but
yeah, you should anyways, but
Right. They were talking about they have like blankets that they put over these fires to like smother them, which I didn't know anything about that. That's fascinating. Now they're trying to find new ways because apparently that they've discovered that's a great way of creating like a little bomb in a fire situation because you just fill it up with toxic gases and stuff. And so they're like, I know this is way off track from e-bikes, but
Yeah, I don't know that that's quite what they're going for with this program.
yeah. How can Vernon turn this into a disaster story?
You're really selling it to our listeners.
Yeah, well, this is me trying to eliminate competition for the e-bike vouchers. So
that's true. Yeah,
if I talk enough about the dangers, then fewer people will sign up to this, and I'll be sure to get my e-bike voucher.
I think it's going to be, I think they're going to get a lot of uptake on this.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that for the tier 2, the vouchers that also, for low income residents, they're also including a voucher for a lock too.
That's true.
Oh, nice.
Locking up an e-bike is, important. Make sure it's safely stored. We definitely need more safe storage for electric, e-bikes, both at apartments as well as at businesses and retail and wherever you're taking your bike, so that we can keep them safe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems like a really promising program just because, like, especially in a county as small as Arlington, like, it really is possible to bicycle a lot of places around here. Like, and it doesn't take that long. But, I mean, biking everywhere is certainly, not a small task, especially, like, in the summer.
I get yelled at a lot for this on TV, but I think like local governments really need to have a carrot and the stick approach to getting people to not use cars as much. Like whenever they're complaining about like, parking in DC or stuff like that, and I'm like, guys, you have to make parking and driving less appealing if you want people to stop using cars. So all this stuff is going to get people really mad, but the idea is that like when I go to the wharf, I'll never drive there. I have to metro there or stuff like that. And I think the flip side of that is programs like this be like, hey, yeah, we know it sucks to drive there, but wouldn't it be nice to e-bike there?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one will be a little bit more popular than
more carrot, less stick.
Yeah. The parking rates going up.
Yeah. Well, I think we're moving into the interview section, which I've been very excited about. We're kind of trying this out for the first time. So yeah, Jane, I know you're a longtime vocal advocate for housing issues around Arlington. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to some of our listeners?
Sure. My name is Jane Green. I've lived in Arlington for 10 years. For a while, like 2000, 2001, I wrote a column for ARLnow called Making Room. And I was affectionately called Jane the Renter by our lovely commenters. Because I'm a renter and I love it. I love renting. I like to be a renter forever. That is my goal. And I have been working with various housing organizations that try to get more housing and more affordable housing built in Arlington, make it easier through changes to zoning and other policies. So yeah, I've been try to follow a lot of the local issues, get people who are newcomers to also get engaged with our local government to make a difference. And ARLnow has always been a great resource for sharing updates on, sometimes you all are attending the planning commission meetings that I can't, and then I get a summary of it the next day or the day after. So that's a really wonderful resource that we have with ARLnow.
Nice. I noticed you called it ARLnow, which has been a topic of some contention. Our boss says it's called ARLnow, but we have all been sliding into calling it ARLnow more. So,
I'm sorry, Scott. It's ARLnow.
Yeah.
He'll let you say it. I just don't think he'll let us say it.
The other thing you're saying about the renter perspective, we talked about that in the newsroom, I think, recently about, Dan, weren't you saying it was somebody who was the first renter on the county board?
Yeah, Maureen.
Maureen, yeah. And how that's, like that changes the perspective a lot when you talked about local governance. What are some ways that you think being a renter, Arlington looks different than it does for a homeowner?
I think your perspective on wanting more housing options really changes. I mean, I think there are a lot of pro-housing homeowners. Arlington is full of them. It's not really a divide of like homeowners want one thing and renters want something else. But I think if you know that you're probably going to be moving around, you want more housing options. I think also Maureen is one of the youngest county board members, maybe the youngest county board member we've ever had. So, when you're younger, you see a lot more different types of housing you want in your future, that, different futures you might have at different points in time.
Yeah.
And I think that really shows that it's really valuable to have studio apartments, 1-bedroom apartments, 3-bedroom apartments, townhomes, all the different kinds of things that you could live in at different points in your life. And I think that's a really great perspective. And I think a lot of county board members do share that, even if they're at the kind of stage of their life where they have, fewer options that they, will consider in the future. But yeah, Maureen's been one of our great housing advocates. But really, our county board is really solid on getting more housing built in Arlington.
That's one of the things where you talked about being a renter for life that really kind of put into words something I've been thinking. Like, my parents were like, oh, well, when are you going to buy a house in Arlington? And I'm like, first of all, I'm a local reporter, not that kind of money. And secondly, like, I don't know. I think the idea that I've heard a lot is that, oh, if you rent, you don't have an investment in your community. Is that something that you've come across?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I get personally offended by that. I really do. I think that people who are renting can have as much investment in the community as people who own. Yes, people who rent are probably, more likely to move in the next few years and might move out of Arlington, but that doesn't mean that we can't be invested while we're here. So yeah, I think this dichotomy of like, well, you don't really have a stake unless you're, paying property taxes, is a pretty short-sighted and kind of narrow-minded view that I know that, our county board does not share. And I think is generally a minority opinion, but it does tend to be something that gets, spread kind of widely. You definitely hear at county board meetings, people introducing themselves with how long they've owned a home in Arlington, kind of insinuating that gives them, greater, should have a larger voice in how Arlington changes. But on the other side, I've been here 10 years now, so I kind of am in that like maybe established zone, but you've just moved here. You have so many more, decades to potentially live in Arlington. And we should want people who have moved here to see themselves living here for their whole lives if they want to. And then we should take that perspective into account along with, all of the perspectives that we have, because we want the county to be looking toward the future and not just, well, we should keep things how they were when someone bought their home in like 1980 or earlier.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been telling Dan that he cannot keep calling renters subhuman. I mean, that's really offensive. So thank you for saying.
Subletters is what I've been saying. Subletters.
Oh, subletters. Okay, that makes more sense now. Okay, yeah. Does everybody in here?
It is a very interesting dynamic in Arlington, though, where like you do have like so many people who've been here like a year or two. It's something I think about as a reporter here, where it's like a lot of the things that especially when we talk about housing, like any kind of reform around housing is something that is a years, if not decades long investment. But like a lot of the people who are most affected by these decisions, or who will ultimately be most affected by these decisions, may not actually be here for that long. It's, I think, and anyway, as a reporter, it's something I think about where, more so than I think in a lot of places in this country, like we've got to be writing for people who, or in your case, advocating toward people who have not been here for very long and maybe learning about a lot of these things for like the very first time.
Yeah, I think about that a lot in terms of the stories that we write. This was especially in Alexandria. We write stories about, oh, here's all of the people, like, here's the times that stuff is being collected from lawns, and here's the time that the, like, residential trash collection comes out. Every time I write that, I would be thinking, how many people does this actually apply to in Alexandria, right? Like, how many people are reading this and are, like me, like, renters in an apartment being like, what? Why do I care what time the leaves are collected at like a residential neighborhood? So yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that are residential issues that are not covered, I think, by a lot of traditional media stuff around the area too. So is actually kind of. Oh yeah, are there any things like that you would like to see more covered that are kind of like more renter focused?
I think we get we get a lot of updates on the housing market. And I would say there's also kind of a divide even among renters of people who are looking to buy. And that's kind of their mindset of like, where can I buy versus me? It's like, well, where am I going to rent next? Which, where am I going to go? And I think, one of the best things for my mental health is that I'm not trying to buy a house because it's really hard. And I feel for my, friends who do want to go and find that place to purchase.
Yeah.
Life would be easier if you're just happy renting. I moved in January to a 3-bedroom apartment, which is amazing. Not cheap, definitely not cheap, but definitely works. I think the options of where you can live when you're renting just increase a lot more. You have so many more choices than if you're committed to purchasing something. I think hopefully if we ever get missing middle worked out, there will be more owned options, and we've definitely seen a few projects coming that will involve condos or townhomes that would be purchased. So, the pipeline can include more of those options as well. And it's up to the county, and the state also to make changes that make more of these different types of housing, including owned homes, more economical and more like, more work with the market to build. So we can advocate to.
Yeah. Speaking of missing middle and mental health, I'm sure that's been kind of a roller coaster over the last few months.
Oh, yeah. So I probably don't need to explain everything missing middle for this audience, but I could not tell you what's going on with the lawsuit right now. I think, my role has always been in the public advocacy, and you can't bring public advocacy to the court system. It's just a different branch of government. You can't influence it that way. So I guess we're all just waiting. The first missing middle home though is for sale right now. It is a duplex or 2 side by side. It's in the North Highlands neighborhood, which is actually fairly close to me. So kind of north of Lion Village, up kind of north of Langston, north of 66. I guess it's anyway, up in that area, south of 66. And it is $1.8 million. It is just under the maximum square footage of 2,500 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. And I'm sure it will sell. It hasn't sold yet, so I guess we'll see. We'll see what the
well, I mean, they do have that thing in the land records saying like, hey, if you live here, you might get kicked out, right? I can't imagine that's
Wait, what is this?
It's still pending litigation, whether it's actually legal, so they're selling it, whoever buys it has to take some sort of leap of faith.
I think I was actually there in the courtroom, like while the judge was like hashing out this, these really unprecedented, like how we're going to deal with the fact that like we have homes that are built now while like litigation is pending like in higher courts related to housing. And they do have something in the land records that says if you buy this, maybe watch your back, maybe have an exit strategy or something.
Wow, I should really read ARL now, so that sounds intense.
But I'll say, $1.8 million, very expensive. But I think the nearest new construction home is $2.5 million. That's currently for sale. So
oh my gosh,
1.8 is less than $2.5 million.
Yeah, I think that math checks out.
I'm not a mathematician, but
yeah. That's hopefully. I mean, the thing I hear a lot is the hope here is really that the supply of it starts to drive down that cost. But how far out do you think it reasonably is that we could run into that, right? That the supply of housing that we build can start to have a noticeable impact on the demand/cost?
I have no idea. That would be a good question for for an economist. I think to really make an impact, missing middle is not the tool for that. Missing middle is a great policy. I hope it continues. I hope we get more duplexes and fourplexes in these neighborhoods. I think that would be great. But what we really need is building code reform and so we can have single stair buildings up to 6 stories, and then we can have more places in Arlington where you can build 6-story buildings, condo, apartment, wherever, and places like along Glebe or George Mason, or places that aren't metro corridors. Metro corridors, we should have like 20-story buildings all the way down. And then these other non-metro corridors where we still have buses, that's where we need to have these like 6-story single stair, like how they build in Europe, and you get bigger units, you get more light on every side, or more sides. It's cheaper to build because you're building stick construction. This is what all of the EMBs are talking about. We're hoping to get building code reform in Virginia. It's places that other states have done it, and it unlocks a type of housing that's more naturally more attainable. Still expensive, still something that's not going to be affordable for low income folks. That is something we need to have money in the AHIF budget. We need to build committed affordable apartments. But if we're trying to find like where you could actually build a larger scale, especially outside of the towers of studios and stuff, which we need it all. We really need everything, all kinds of housing. We can't just say, well, we only need one and not anything else. We just need everything. And Arlington has plenty of room. I think you can just walk down like Washington Boulevard or Wilson, and if you get much out of Roslyn, and even Roslyn, there's plenty of, there's a lot of 1-story buildings, there's parking lots, there's plenty of places we can put 6-story buildings that would fit in very nicely.
Jane, I know one thing you mentioned wanting to talk about on this podcast is updates to the county's comprehensive plan. How does that fit into some of the things that you're talking about right now?
The comprehensive plan is a document that I understand is state mandated, that you must have a comprehensive plan that kind of lays out how your community will grow. And then you have sub plans that cover stormwater and public space and transportation, and then also the general land use plan, which is the sort of foundation for the zoning code. And it kind of, the general land use plan lays out more general, so not exact densities, but kind of ranges of densities and types of uses. And we've kind of set with basically the same framework since 1960 when we put in metro. And that was where we have the idea that we're going to have these bullseyes around metro stations, so you can have tall buildings right around metro. But if you're a building that's half a mile between 2 metro stations, maybe you shouldn't be tall, which is ridiculous. And the county board did kind of place that with the that vacant parking lot between the Whole Foods and that other building.
Oh, yeah.
So, we're kind of working in that direction of getting rid of this bullseye. But with the general idea of like, we should push all of the density into, the kind of 2 blocks surrounding the metro station. Everything else should basically be single family homes of like, and that's just not a great way to build. It's not a great way to, it's really locking us in. We still have to fight to get tall buildings built in Arlington. It's not like they're letting these big tall buildings get built without a lot of, there's still really even when we do put a 20-story building next to the courthouse metro station. But we're locking ourselves out of a lot of opportunity to build, mid-rise housing that would a lot of different types of, apartments, condos, different sizes and stuff, because we've locked ourselves into this. Actually, there is a goal, or one of the goals in the comprehensive plan specifically says that we should preserve, low density residential neighborhoods and restrict development. And that's its time, but Arlington is continuing to grow. We get more jobs come here, jobs come to, Washington, D.C., the issues with the federal government notwithstanding, I think Arlington will continue to grow. I don't want Arlington to have cheaper housing because, DC is, because the current administration is, just blowing everything up. Like, that's not that's not a sustainable.
Yeah, not sustainable. I was about to say.
You don't want homes to become more affordable because everyone's losing their jobs or getting, pushed out to, their federal job is moving to another state. Like that's not how we want affordable housing because we have enough supply to meet the demand, and we want demand to continue to come here. I think the idea that, well, we don't want jobs to come to Arlington, I don't think that's good and forward looking. So we're going to continue to be a desirable place to live. That's the best case scenario, is that we continue to be a desirable place to live. And so we need to build housing so that people can come and live here. And I think so the comprehensive plan is the kind of foundation of what that looks like. There will be a rewrite of the kind of first kind of introductory chapter, which is a little more qualitative about what these goals and what look like. So the county has started this engagement process. It's being run primarily by the Planning Commission. They have done a lot of focus groups specifically with communities that are harder to reach through public engagement. So non-native English speakers, seniors, folks with disabilities, the Black community. So they have been working on getting those voices right up front, which I think is great. And then they also did a online survey, which you kind of talk about what your vision of Arlington in 2050 is. So they've collected a lot of that. And I heard that we will get additional focus groups and community engagement meetings for general residents starting in the fall. And I heard that they would like to work on this through the end of the year and hopefully approve something in December. That's a pretty optimistic time frame, I would say, but we'll see. I know that we as the YIMBYs have talked a lot about, we've encouraged a lot of people to write in. I think a lot of different interest groups will get their kind of constituents to write in with their own perspectives, and it'll get a lot of input, but it's important to get a good diversity of input, and we can't have it be kind of overly dominated by single family homeowners who've lived here for 40 years. We need to get people who are newer residents get their perspective as well, because this is a document that's looking out to 2050, and we want people who will be living here and starting to build families and kind of be part of community leadership 30, 25 years from now, to be part of this process. So definitely something to look out for. And then they will also be looking at the general land use plan and potentially making changes into where different types of density are allowed. And it could be great to see more of our kind of transit served but not metro served areas have more opportunity to have more housing. That would be my dream.
Nice. All right, I think that was everything for me. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. I really appreciate it. So this was, like we said, this is our first kind of experiment into bringing guests on, and it went really well, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure we could continue talking about housing forever.
Yeah.
Being in Arlington, and you being in your position that you're in. Thank you as well. Yeah, this was.
Well, it was a pleasure to chat with you guys. Thank you for all the work you're doing. It's really great to have local reporting on all the things that the county is doing. So keep up the good work. Say hi to Scott for me.
All right.
All right, will do.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.